Right after her father's funeral, her stepmother threw 19-year-old Tracy out into the cold without any money. The girl thought she was completely alone, but her loving dad had made sure to provide for her future in such a situation. The gray winter sky weighed heavily on her shoulders. Tracy stood by the freshly dug grave, not feeling the bone-chilling wind. Next to her, in a black shawl covering half her face, stood her stepmother Miranda. The woman occasionally brought a handkerchief to her eyes, but Tracy didn't see a single tear on her face. "We are bidding farewell to Andrew Brown, a loving father, caring husband, talented entrepreneur," the priest's voice sounded, but Tracy barely heard it. One thought was spinning in her mind: Dad is gone. This simple thought couldn't settle in the consciousness of the 19-year-old girl. "Stay strong, dear," Miranda whispered in her ear, lightly putting an arm around her shoulders. "Your father was a strong man. He would want you to be strong too." At these words, tears welled up in Tracy's eyes. Yes, her father always taught her to be strong. "Life is not only about joy, Tracy," he used to say. "But whatever happens, you must never lose yourself." The funeral ended. Her father's business colleagues, neighbors, distant relatives, all came up to Tracy to offer their condolences. Many spoke about what a wonderful person Andrew Brown was, how much he loved his daughter, and how proud he was of her. Tracy nodded mechanically, not understanding how to live now without his support and love. "Let's go home," Miranda said when everyone had left. "We need to discuss a lot." The ride home was silent. Tracy looked out the car window at the snowy streets of her hometown rushing by and remembered how her father used to take her sledding in the park when she was a child. He was so happy with her success in school and dance. Then, 3 years ago, Miranda appeared in their lives, a bright, striking businesswoman whom her father met at some conference. Tracy sighed. She never felt warm feelings toward her stepmother, but there was no open hostility between them, at least until today. Entering the apartment, Tracy immediately felt something was wrong. In the hallway stood 2 large bags and a battered suitcase. "What's this?" she asked, taking off her coat. Miranda went into the living room, sat down in an armchair, and for the first time that day her face took on a meaningful expression. "These are your things," she said calmly. "I packed everything." "My things?" Tracy repeated, confused. "Why?" "Because it's time for you to move out," Miranda replied, lighting a cigarette. "You're already 19, a grown-up girl. It's time to start living on your own." Tracy froze, not believing her ears. "What do you mean move out?" "This is my apartment." "Mine and Dad's was." "Your dad's was your dad's," Miranda corrected her. "But now your dad is gone, and the apartment belongs to me. I have the documents to prove it. Your father transferred it to me before he died." "That can't be," Tracy exclaimed, feeling a chill run down her spine. "Dad would never do that." "He did and he would," Miranda cut in, exhaling a stream of smoke. "And anyway, that's not the point. The point is we never loved each other. I tolerated you for Andrew's sake. Now he's gone, and I'm not obliged to keep up this charade." Tracy felt the ground slip from under her feet. Could this really be happening? On her father's funeral day, she was being kicked out of her own home. "I have nowhere to go," she whispered. "That's your problem," Miranda shrugged. "You have friends from university, professors who care about you. Ask to stay with someone for a while, then find a job and rent a room. In short, live like a normal person, not like a princess with everything handed to her." "Just give me a few days," Tracy pleaded. "I just buried my father, and I buried my husband," Miranda cut her off. "I need to be alone to process my loss." So be kind, take your things and leave right now. But not all my things are there. Tracy glanced at the pathetic bags. Where's my laptop? My books? Photos? I left only the essentials. Miranda waved her off. We'll talk about the rest later, when you've cooled down and start thinking reasonably. Reasonably? Tracy felt anger boiling inside her. Reasonably, to throw a person out into 20-degree frost on her father's funeral day? Don't dramatize, Miranda frowned. It's only -5 outside, and you're not a stray dog. You're a young, healthy girl who finally needs to grow up and learn to solve her problems on her own. At that moment, Tracy realized arguing was pointless. This woman had already made her decision. With trembling hands, she began pulling on the coat that hadn't yet dried after the cemetery. Make sure you took your documents, Miranda called after her. Passport, student ID. I put everything in the side pocket of the suitcase. Tracy nodded silently, grabbed the bags and suitcase, and left, carefully closing the door behind her. Only when she reached the stairwell did she allow herself to cry. Going down to the street, Tracy stopped by the building entrance. Where to go? Who to turn to? Her friends had gone home for the holidays, and she didn't have any close friends she could show up to with a suitcase. There were no relatives left in the city either, only distant ones in other cities, with whom she didn't even communicate. Wet snow fell on her face, mixing with tears. Tracy wandered down the street, not knowing where. Her father's face appeared before her eyes, kind, with radiant wrinkles around his eyes. How could he leave her in such a situation? Didn't he realize that Miranda was just waiting for a chance to get rid of her? Memories flooded her like a wave. There they were, making pizza together on the weekend. He always cooked for her on Saturdays, even when he was very busy at work. There they were going to the circus. She was 5 years old, tightly holding her father's hand, afraid of the clowns. There was her school graduation. Dad proudly photographed her in her evening dress. And then Miranda appeared. At first, she was sweet, gave Tracy gifts, took an interest in her life. But after the wedding, everything changed. Miranda became cold, distant, and in the last year, when her father became seriously ill, she stopped hiding her irritation altogether. Your daughter's sitting in her room again, doing nothing around the house, Tracy heard from her parents' bedroom. She's a grown girl, Vitya, it's time she learns to be independent, but you keep treating her like a child. Of course, her father defended her. He said Tracy studied well and helped as much as she could, but each time his voice sounded weaker and his arguments less convincing. The illness was draining his strength, and Miranda took advantage of it. Tracy wandered the streets, occasionally stopping to adjust the heavy suitcase more comfortably. Her hands were freezing, her gloves remained in the pocket of another coat. Her feet began to get wet, and her winter boots were not among the most essential things she took. It got dark. Streetlights illuminated the snowy streets. Warm light shone through house windows. People were coming home from work, hurrying to their families. Dad, where are you? Tracy thought, feeling her fingers going numb. Why did you leave me alone? Why did you let this woman decide my fate? After all, I'm your daughter, your blood. But there was no answer, only the wind threw prickly snowflakes in her face. Tracy didn't notice how her feet led her to a small park near the university. They often walked here with her father when he came to visit her after classes. The girl sat down on a snowy bench, no longer paying attention to the cold. Her strength was leaving her. Tracy. Tracy Brown, came a suddenly surprised female voice. The girl looked up. Standing before her was Nancy Cooper, her literature teacher from high school. The elderly woman, wearing a warm coat and a fluffy hat, looked at her with undisguised concern. "What are you doing here alone in such cold? And why do you have your things?" Nancy Cooper asked anxiously. Tracy wanted to answer calmly but instead burst into tears again. The teacher immediately sat next to her and hugged her shoulders. There, dear, calm down. Tell me what happened." Dad died," Tracy managed to say through her sobs. "Oh my God," exclaimed Nancy Cooper. "Poor girl. Where do you live now? Why are you on the street with your things?" Tracy briefly told her what had happened, about the funeral, her stepmother's cruel decision, and that she had nowhere to go. "How awful." Nancy Cooper was outraged. To kick a child out on a day like that. "No, that won't do. You're coming to my place right now. You'll stay with me until we figure this out." "I can't impose on you," Tracy began, but the teacher shook her head firmly. "I don't want to hear it. I live alone in a 2-room apartment. There's plenty of space. Besides, I always valued you very much. You were one of my favorite students. And I remember your father well. He always came to parent meetings, unlike many others. A decent man." Half an hour later, they were entering Nancy's old but very cozy apartment on the 2nd floor of a brick 5-story building. "Make yourself at home in the living room," the teacher said, helping Tracy take off her coat. "I'll put on the kettle and get some clean sheets. You need to warm up and rest." Tracy nodded gratefully. She felt broken both physically and emotionally. The past few weeks had been a real nightmare. Her father's illness progressed rapidly, pancreatic cancer, diagnosed too late. She sat by his bedside through the nights, holding his hand, watching the light fade from his eyes day by day. And now this betrayal from her stepmother on top of everything. "Have some tea," Nancy Cooper placed a cup of steaming drink in front of her. "And eat a sandwich. You probably haven't eaten all day." Tracy nodded. After the funeral, there was a memorial lunch, but she couldn't swallow a bite. "Nancy Cooper, thank you so much. I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't met you." "Don't thank me," the woman smiled gently. "Life is unpredictable, and we have to support each other in hard times. Eat up and go to sleep. Tomorrow we'll think about what to do next." In the morning, Tracy woke up to the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. At first, she couldn't figure out where she was, but then the events of the previous day hit her with renewed force. She forced herself to get up from the couch. "Good morning," Nancy Cooper greeted her. "How did you sleep?" "Thanks, not bad," Tracy lied. In reality, she barely closed her eyes, replaying everything that happened and trying to figure out what to do next. "Breakfast is on the table," the teacher said. "And then we'll talk about your plans." During breakfast, Nancy Cooper delicately asked Tracy about the situation in more detail. "So, your stepmother claims that your father transferred the apartment to her?" "Yes," Tracy nodded. "But I don't believe Dad would do that. He always said no matter what, I'd have a roof over my head." "And what about his business? If I remember correctly, your father had some company." "Yes, a construction firm," Tracy answered. "Small, but stable. Dad started from scratch 20 years ago. He was very proud of his work. But I don't know what will happen to it now. Probably Miranda will get it too." "And the will? Did your father leave a will?" "I don't know," Tracy shrugged. "No one told me anything about a will." "That's strange," Nancy Cooper frowned. Andrew Brown seemed like a very responsible man. It's hard to believe he didn't take care of his only daughter's future. Maybe he just didn't have time, Tracy said quietly. The illness progressed so fast. In the last weeks, he was asleep almost all the time because of strong painkillers. They were finishing their coffee when the doorbell rang. Nancy Cooper went to answer and came back holding an envelope. "This is for you," she said, handing Tracy the letter. "The courier said he looked for you at your old address, but neighbors told him they saw you walking this way in the evening." Tracy took the envelope with surprise. It had her old address on it and a notary's office seal in the upper corner. From the notary, she wondered aloud. But why? "Open it and you'll find out," Nancy Cooper smiled. With trembling hands, Tracy opened the envelope. Inside was an official letter. "Dear Tracy, we hereby notify you of the necessity to appear at the notary's office at 24 Sadavia Street, Office 301, to review the will of your father, Andrew Brown, born 1970. Please arrive on December 15, 2023, at exactly 2 p.m. Respectfully, Notary Lucas Jackson." "A will," Tracy exclaimed. "Dad did leave a will after all." "See," Nancy Cooper nodded approvingly. "I told you your father wouldn't leave you unsupported. Today is the 15th, so you need to get ready." "And what if it says everything really goes to Miranda?" Tracy asked anxiously. "In that case, we'll look for other ways to solve the problem," Nancy Cooper replied firmly. "But somehow I'm sure your father took care of you." Tracy arrived at the notary's office 15 minutes before the appointed time. Her heart pounded with anxiety. What awaited her there? What last words had her father left? In the waiting room, she was surprised to find her stepmother. Miranda nervously smoked an e-cigarette, pacing the small room. "So you showed up," she snapped when she saw Tracy. "Found somewhere to spend the night?" "Found," Tracy answered shortly, not wanting to go into details. "That's something to be grateful for," Miranda smirked. "I was already thinking about reporting you missing to the police." "How touching of you," Tracy couldn't resist sarcasm, "especially after you kicked me out into the street." "Don't dramatize," Miranda grimaced. "You're a grown-up girl, you should understand how life works. Everyone has their own path. Mine is to be the lady of the house I earned by supporting your father through his illness. Yours is to start your own independent life." Tracy didn't have time to respond. They were called into the notary's office. Lucas Jackson turned out to be a respectable man of about 50 with a keen gaze and a neat beard. He greeted both women and gestured to the chairs in front of his desk. "My condolences on your loss," he said formally. "Today we have gathered to read the will of Andrew Brown. The will was drawn up and properly notarized 4 months ago, on August 10, 2023. Tracy noticed Miranda tense up. 4 months ago, that was before her father's illness worsened, when he was fully conscious and mentally clear. According to the testator's wishes, the notary continued, unfolding the document, his property is distributed as follows. The apartment at 17 European Street, apartment 56, passes to his wife, Miranda Brown. Miranda looked triumphantly at Tracy. Tracy felt her insides tighten. However, the notary continued, the 3-room apartment belonging to the testator at 103 Victory Avenue, apartment 42, passes to his daughter, Tracy Brown. Tracy opened her mouth in astonishment. What apartment is the notary talking about? Dad had only one apartment, the one they lived in. The notary turned the page. The majority shareholding, 51%, of the construction company Brown Renovations, belonging to the testator, passes to his daughter, Tracy Brown. The remaining 49% passes to his wife, Miranda Brown. What? Miranda jumped up from her chair. That's some kind of mistake. Andrew never told me about a second apartment, and we agreed that the business would go to me. I assure you, there is no mistake, the notary replied calmly. All documents are properly executed. Andrew Brown purchased the second apartment about a year ago, and the controlling share of the company has always belonged personally to him. This is confirmed by the founding documents. Tracy sat stunned. She had an apartment and controlling shares in her father's business. It felt unreal. A personal letter to Tracy is attached to the will, the notary added, handing her another envelope. Andrew Brown asked that it be given to you after the official reading. Miranda shot Tracy a spiteful look. This is a forgery, she hissed through clenched teeth. I will contest the will. Andrew couldn't have done this to me after everything I did for him. That is your right, the notary answered evenly. But I must warn you that all documents are in perfect order. The will was drawn up in the presence of witnesses, and medical certificates confirm that Andrew Brown was of sound mind and memory at the time. Miranda abruptly stood up, grabbed her handbag, and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Don't pay attention to that, the notary said gently to Tracy. Such reactions are common when wills are read. People tend to make plans, and when those plans collapse, they feel disappointment. Tracy nodded, still unable to believe what was happening. May I read my father's letter? Of course, the notary nodded. You may do it here or take it with you, whichever you prefer. I think I'll read it at home, Tracy decided. By the way, when can I see the apartment? Even today would be great, the notary smiled. Here are the keys and documents. The apartment is fully registered in your name. All utility bills are paid for 6 months in advance. Andrew Brown was a very prudent man. Leaving the notary's office, Tracy pressed the envelope with the letter and the bunch of keys to her chest. She felt as if her father was near again, as if he had embraced her and said, "Everything will be all right, Tracy. I've taken care of everything." Tracy decided to return to Nancy Cooper first to tell her what had happened before going to see the apartment. On the way, she couldn't resist and opened the envelope with her father's letter. My dear Tracy, if you are reading these lines, it means I am no longer with you. I'm sorry I couldn't defeat the illness and stay by your side longer. You have been and remain the greatest joy and pride of my life. I suspected what might happen after I was gone. Miranda has changed over the past years, and not for the better. She was a good wife in many ways, but I saw how she treated you and understood that as soon as I was no longer here, she would try to get rid of you. That is why a year ago I secretly bought an apartment for you and transferred the controlling stake of the company to your name. Miranda didn't know about this. She thought she would inherit the entire business. I didn't want to create conflicts while I was alive, so I arranged everything through trusted people. The apartment is fully ready to live in. It has everything you need. In the bedroom, in the closet behind the books, you will find a safe. The code is your birth date. Inside are all the important company documents and money for the initial period. There are reliable people in the company who will help you manage it. Pay special attention to Richard, my deputy. He is 58 years old. He has always been loyal to me and will help you. Don't let Miranda intimidate you. All the documents are legally flawless, and she won't be able to contest the will, though she will surely try. I believe in you, daughter. You are strong and smart. You will manage. Remembering that I am always with you, in your heart. With love, your dad. Tracy didn't notice the tears running down her cheeks. Father had really thought of everything. He protected her even after his death. It was so like him, always thinking several steps ahead. Nancy Cooper was happy to hear the news. I told you, she exclaimed, hugging Tracy. Your father couldn't have left you without support. What a wise man to have arranged everything. Yes, Tracy nodded, wiping her tears. But Miranda said she will contest the will. Let them try, Nancy Cooper snorted. If the notary says everything is done correctly, then it is. Now, let's go see your new apartment. The apartment turned out to be spacious and bright, on the 10th floor of a new building overlooking a park. 3 rooms, a large kitchen, 2 bathrooms. Everything was renovated in a modern style, with good furniture and appliances. Oh my God! Tracy whispered, surveying her new possessions. This is a fortune. Your father clearly wanted you to want for nothing, Nancy Cooper remarked, opening kitchen cabinets with interest. Look, there's even tableware here, and quite expensive. Tracy went into the bedroom and opened the closet. Behind a row of books, she indeed found a built-in safe. She entered her birth date, and the door opened. Inside was a folder with documents and an envelope with cash, $500,000. Dad, she whispered, clutching the envelope to her chest. Thank you. The next day Tracy decided to visit her father's company. She needed to meet Richard and understand how things were going in the firm now. Brown Repair's office was located in a small 2-story building in the city's business district. Tracy was nervous. She had never been interested in her father's business, thinking it was not her affair. Now she was about to become the company owner. In the reception, she was greeted by a secretary, a young woman with a friendly face. How can I help you? She asked. My name is Tracy Brown. I'm Andrew's daughter, the girl introduced herself. I need to speak with Richard. The secretary's eyes widened. Tracy, of course, come in. Richard is in his office. Please accept my condolences on your father's passing. He was a wonderful man and leader. Thank you, Tracy nodded, moved by the sincerity in the woman's voice. The deputy was an older man with a gray beard and a thoughtful look. Seeing Tracy, he stood up from behind his desk. Hello, Tracy. Finally, we meet in person. Your father told me a lot about you. Hello, Tracy said, shaking his outstretched hand. Dad mentioned you in his letter and said you would help me figure out the company. Gladly, Richard nodded. Please, have a seat. We have much to discuss. For the next hour, the father's deputy briefed Tracy on the company's affairs. The company was small but stable, engaged in building economy-class residential houses, and had a good reputation in the city. The staff included about 30 permanent employees and up to 100 contract workers. In recent months, while your father was ill, things haven't been going smoothly, Richard admitted. Miranda tried to interfere with management, even though she had no authority. She fired several valuable employees, which caused delays at the construction sites. We struggled to keep the situation under control. And now? Tracy asked. She knows the controlling stake has passed to me, the man nodded grimly. She came here right after the notary, caused a scandal, threatened to fire everyone as soon as she contests the will. We tried to explain to her that it doesn't work that way, but she wouldn't listen. Tracy sighed. It seemed no easy life awaited her. What do you advise? She asked. I don't know anything about the construction business. Maybe I should sell my share? Richard frowned. I don't recommend rushing into such a decision. Your father built this company for 20 years and put his soul into it. He wanted the business to continue. Besides, the company brings stable income. You will be financially secure with it. You can sell at any time, but first, it's better to understand how things work. You're right, Tracy nodded. Thank you, I will learn. At that moment, the office door swung open without knocking, and Miranda entered. A man in an expensive suit carrying a leather briefcase followed her. So, the heiress has arrived, the stepmother sneered, casting a contemptuous glance at Tracy. Decided to play businesswoman. And yet yesterday you didn't even know the difference between debit and credit. Miranda, Richard said firmly, it's customary to knock before entering this office. Don't tell me what to do, the woman snapped. I am still a shareholder of the company. She nodded at her companion. Oscar Wright, my lawyer. We're here to inform you that I am filing a lawsuit contesting Andrew's will. The lawyer took a folder of papers out of his briefcase. Until the court decision, he said officially, we demand freezing all company assets and stopping any financial operations that require the signature of the controlling shareholder. On what grounds? Richard asked in surprise. The company can't stop working because of your lawsuit. On the grounds that the will was made while Andrew Brown was under the influence of strong painkillers, the lawyer countered. This affected his ability to assess the situation and make decisions rationally. That's not true, Tracy interrupted. The will was made 4 months ago when Dad was not yet taking strong medications. He was fully conscious. That's what you think, Miranda smirked. In reality, he started treatment earlier but hid the severity of his condition from you so as not to upset you. I have medical documents to prove it. Tracy turned pale. Could it be that Miranda found a way to contest Dad's will? I demand that until the court's decision, all company documents be sealed, Miranda continued. And no financial operations without my knowledge. You have no right to do that, Richard objected. Tracy is the legal owner of the controlling stake, and only she can make such decisions. We shall see, Miranda sneered. Oscar Wright, leave them a copy of the lawsuit, and we'll be going. There are a few more instances we need to visit. When they left, Tracy sank into a chair, feeling empty. What will happen now? She asked. Can she really take the company away from me? I don't think so, Richard shook his head. But she can cause a lot of trouble. We need a good lawyer. At that moment, someone knocked on the door, and the secretary entered. Richard, Charles Collins says it's urgent. Let him in, the deputy nodded. A young man of about 30, tall, with an attentive look and a pleasant smile, entered the office. Hello, Richard, he said, then noticed Tracy. Sorry, I didn't know you had visitors. Charles, meet Tracy, Andrew's daughter and the new owner of the controlling stake, Richard introduced her. Nice to meet you, Charles smiled, shaking Tracy's hand. My condolences on your loss. Andrew Brown was an outstanding man. Thank you, Tracy nodded, noting the sincerity in the young man's voice. Charles, we have a problem, Richard said. Miranda came with a lawyer. They are filing a lawsuit to contest the will, claiming Andrew Brown was incapacitated when he made it because of medication. Charles frowned. That's a serious accusation, but they have little chance. I was present when the will was made as a witness, and Andrew Brown was completely of sound mind. Besides, there is a medical report from his attending physician confirming this. We can request a copy. You were there when the will was made? Tracy asked, surprised. Yes, Charles nodded. Your father asked me to be there. He wanted everything to be legally flawless. I checked every clause. God, you came just in time. Tracy exclaimed. I was starting to lose hope. No need to panic, Charles smiled. We will handle this situation. Miranda is trying to intimidate you, but the law is on your side. What do we do now? Tracy asked. First, don't fall for provocations, Charles replied. Second, gather all documents proving your father was of sound mind when making the will. I'll take care of that. And third, keep the company running as usual. No freezing of assets or halting operations. They have no legal grounds for that. Thank you, Tracy said sincerely. I don't even know how to thank you. No thanks needed, Charles smiled. I respected your father and will do everything to protect his last will. Besides, it's my job. Over the following weeks, Tracy often visited the company office, gradually getting involved in the business. Charles prepared for the court case, gathering evidence supporting the validity of the will. He often consulted Tracy on legal matters, and a warm, trusting relationship gradually developed between them. Meanwhile, Miranda kept trying to gain control of the company. She spread rumors about Tracy's incompetence, tried to turn employees against the new owner, even visited sites and threatened contractors with contract termination if they continued working. It was not easy for Tracy. She never thought she would find herself in such a situation, managing a construction company while fighting a spiteful stepmother. But the support of Richard, Charles, and other employees gave her strength. The court day was approaching. Tracy was nervous despite Charles's assurances that everything would be fine. What if Miranda really has some documents we don't know about? She asked the night before the hearing, when she and Charles stayed late at the office preparing for the trial. Even if she does, we're ready for that, the lawyer replied, rubbing his tired eyes. We have enough evidence that your father was of sound mind and clear memory when making the will. Besides, the notary confirmed the legality of the procedure, which means a lot to the court. Tracy nodded, but anxiety lingered. She felt Miranda had a trump card hidden somewhere. Charles, may I ask? Why are you trying so hard to help me? I understand you respected my father, but still. The young man was silent, as if gathering his thoughts. Your father once helped me a lot, he finally said. 3 years ago, I got into a difficult situation. My previous employer was dishonest, and I was unwittingly involved in his schemes. Andrew Brown believed in my innocence when others turned away. He gave me a job and helped restore my reputation. I'll never forget that. Dad had the ability to see the good in people, Tracy said quietly. He always gave a chance to those who needed it. Exactly, Charles nodded. And I want to repay him by helping you. It's the least I can do. Their eyes met, and Tracy felt her heart beat faster. There was so much warmth and sincerity in Charles's eyes. At that moment, she realized her feelings for the lawyer had long gone beyond simple gratitude. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. The courtroom was packed. Tracy nervously squeezed Charles's hand, who sat next to her at the defense table. Opposite them were Miranda and her lawyer, Oscar Wright, confident with cold smiles on their faces. Don't worry, Charles whispered, noticing how tense Tracy was. The judge, a middle-aged woman of solid build with a keen gaze, was reviewing documents. Finally, she looked up and announced the start of the hearing. The hearing lasted several hours. Miranda's lawyer presented medical documents supposedly proving that Andrew Brown was taking strong painkillers at the time the will was made. He called a nurse as a witness, who confirmed that the patient was often in a foggy state of mind. Tracy felt a chill inside. What if it's true? What if Dad really wasn't himself? But when Charles took the floor, the situation changed. He presented a report from Andrew's attending physician, who confirmed that at the time the will was made, the patient was fully coherent and only taking mild painkillers. He called the notary who certified the will, who under oath stated that he carefully checked the client's condition and noticed no signs of incapacity. Moreover, Charles continued, We have a video recording of the process of drafting and signing the will, which Andrew Brown prudently requested to be made for exactly such a case. A silence fell over the courtroom. A video recording? The judge asked again. Why was it not presented earlier? We kept it as a last resort, Charles replied. Andrew Brown anticipated possible attempts to contest his last will and prepared accordingly. The judge ordered the recording to be played. On the screen appeared Andrew Brown, pale but with a clear gaze and firm voice. He explained his decisions in detail, emphasizing that he was fully conscious and acting of his own free will. The camera also captured the notary, the witnesses, and the moment of signing the document. I want my daughter Tracy to be protected, Andrew Brown said on the screen. I know it will be hard for her without me, so I am providing her with housing and a stable source of income. As for my wife Miranda, she also receives a significant part of the estate, including our apartment and a share in the business. I consider this distribution fair. When the recording ended, silence hung in the room. Tracy wiped away a tear, hearing her father's voice, so calm and confident even in the face of death. The court is adjourning to make a decision, the judge announced after a brief consultation with her assistants. What do you think our chances are? Tracy whispered to Charles. Practically 100%, he replied confidently. The video has put all doubts to rest. And indeed, half an hour later, the judge issued a ruling. Miranda Brown's claim to contest the will was dismissed in full as unfounded. The will was declared valid. The heir's rights were confirmed according to the testator's wishes. Miranda jumped up from her seat. This is unfair, she exclaimed. I was by his side until the last day. I deserve more. Leave the courtroom if you cannot control your emotions, the judge replied coldly. The decision has been made and can be appealed according to the law. Miranda shot a burning glare at Tracy and left, slamming the door loudly. Her lawyer hurried after her, muttering apologies. Congratulations, Charles said as they left the courthouse. Now your rights are fully protected, and no one can challenge them. Thank you, Tracy said sincerely. I couldn't have managed without you. Don't downplay your role, Charles smiled. You showed real resilience and strength of character. Your father would be proud of you. That same day, Tracy moved into the apartment left to her by her father. Nancy Cooper helped with the last things and settling in. It's so spacious here. The teacher admired as she looked around the bright rooms. Your father chose a wonderful place. It's only a 15-minute walk to the university from here. Yes, Tracy nodded, looking out the window. Dad always remembered how much I love walking. And the park is nearby. We often walked there together when I was little. Now your new life begins, Nancy Cooper said, gently hugging her former student. And judging by how you talk about that young lawyer, not just professionally. Tracy blushed. Nancy Cooper, we're just colleagues. Of course, the teacher nodded with a slight smile. At my age, you see these things through. He's a good person, and that's what matters. The next day, Tracy came to the company office for the first time as the rightful owner of the controlling stake. The employees greeted her with applause. Congratulations on your court victory, said Secretary Miranda, handing Tracy a bouquet of flowers. We were all worried about you. Thank you, Tracy said, touched. But this is our shared victory. I know many of you testified and supported me. Richard held the first official meeting with Tracy present, introducing her to the team as the new leader. Many employees expressed joy that the company remained in the founder's family. We won't let you down, Tracy, said an elderly foreman who had worked with the company since its founding. Your father built not just a business, but a real family. We all have each other's backs here." These words touched Tracy deeply. She realized how much respect her father commanded and how great the responsibility she now carried for the people who believed in him. In the following days, Tracy threw herself into work. She studied documentation, visited construction sites, met with contractors and clients. Richard and other experienced employees patiently explained the business nuances, while Charles helped her understand the legal aspects. Gradually, Tracy began to feel she was managing. Her university degree in economics came in very handy, and her natural attention to detail and ability to listen helped her quickly absorb new information. But not everything went smoothly. Miranda, though she lost the court case, was not going to give up. As the owner of 49% of the shares, she had certain rights in the company and used them to cause problems. She blocked some decisions requiring unanimous shareholder approval, spread rumors among clients about allegedly incompetent management, and even tried to poach key employees. "I don't know how much longer I can take this," Tracy admitted one night when she and Charles stayed late in the office going through another complaint from Miranda. "It's like she's doing everything on purpose to wear me down." "That's exactly what she's doing," Charles nodded. "She's hoping you'll get tired and agree to sell her your shares for a pittance. Don't fall for that manipulation." "Easy to say," Tracy sighed. "Sometimes I feel like it would be easier to just sell everything and start fresh. Maybe that would be for the best. After all, I'm not a builder." "Was your father a builder?" Charles asked. "He was an economist by education, just like you. But he believed in his idea of building affordable quality housing for ordinary people and created a company everyone is proud of. You can continue his work, Tracy. You have everything it takes." Their eyes met, and Tracy felt warmth spreading through her chest. Charles believed in her even more than she did herself. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You always know how to support me." "That's what friends are for," Charles replied with a slight hesitation. "Friends?" Tracy looked down. "Of course, who else could they be?" She was a budding businesswoman with a ton of problems. He was an experienced lawyer helping her out of friendship and respect for her father. But deep down, Tracy knew her feelings for Charles had long outgrown friendship. His smile made her heart beat faster. His presence gave her confidence. His advice was always spot on. With him, she felt protected and understood. Weeks passed. Tracy grew more confident as a leader. She proposed several ideas to optimize the company's work, all unanimously approved by the staff. Her idea to hold a charity event, free repairs at a children's home, sparked real enthusiasm among the team and improved the company's image in the city. Miranda continued her intrigues, but now they didn't affect Tracy as much. She had learned to resist her stepmother's manipulations and firmly stand her ground. One evening, as they were returning from an important meeting with investors, Charles unexpectedly suggested, "Maybe we should go out for dinner? It's been a tough day, and I know a great place nearby." Tracy looked at him in surprise. In all the months they had known each other, Charles had never made such an offer. "I'd love to," she replied, feeling her cheeks blush slightly. The restaurant was small and cozy, with dim lighting and live music. Charles was clearly a regular. The waitstaff greeted him warmly. "I sometimes come here for dinner after work," he explained, noticing Tracy's surprised look. "The food is great and it's almost never noisy." During dinner, for the first time they talked about something other than work. Charles shared stories about his childhood in a small provincial town, his teacher parents, and how he dreamed of becoming a lawyer since participating in a school legal Olympiad. Tracy shared memories of her mother, who died when she was only 8, and how her father raised her alone, trying to be both parents. "You know," she said when dessert was served, "I never used to be interested in my father's business. I thought it wasn't for me, that I'd do something completely different. Now I realize how much I missed. We could have spent more time together if I had shared his interests." "Don't blame yourself," Charles said softly. "You were young, you had your own life, and your father understood that. He never pressured you, did he?" "No, never," Tracy smiled. "He supported all my hobbies. When I wanted to become a ballerina, he took me to dance classes. When I got inspired to become an artist, he bought expensive paints and canvases. When I decided to study economics, he didn't object, although I think deep down he hoped I'd join his business. And now you're here, continuing his work," Charles smiled. "He would be proud of you, Tracy." She looked at Charles and suddenly realized that for the first time in a long while, she felt truly happy. Despite all the difficulties, despite the loss of her father and the stepmother's schemes, a person had appeared in her life with whom she wanted to be herself. "Charles," she gathered courage, "may I ask you a personal question?" "Of course," he nodded. "Why aren't you married? How old are you now?" 32, he smiled. "Not married because I haven't met the one I want to spend my life with." He hesitated. "I thought he just hadn't met anyone, but now I wasn't so sure." Their eyes met, and Tracy felt her heart skip a beat. Could he really mean me? She thought. Charles took her hand in his. "I've wanted to say this for a long time. I like you very much, and not just as a client or colleague. I understand that now might not be the best time for such confessions given everything happening in your life." "It's the best time," Tracy interrupted, squeezing his hand in response. "I like you very much too, Charles, and I don't know what I would have done all these months without your support." He smiled, and his eyes shone with such warmth that Tracy was breathless. "Then maybe we can stop using formal you with each other?" he suggested. "With pleasure," Tracy laughed. After dinner, Charles walked her home. At the entrance, he stopped hesitantly. "May I invite you on a real date? This weekend, for example?" "You may," Tracy nodded, feeling her cheeks flush again. "I would be very happy." Charles leaned in and gently kissed her. It was a tender, almost weightless kiss that made Tracy's head spin. "Until tomorrow," he whispered, pulling away. "Sweet dreams." "Until tomorrow," she echoed, watching him walk to his car. Riding up in the elevator, Tracy couldn't hold back her smile. A new chapter was beginning in her life, and for the first time in a long time, the future didn't seem like a heavy burden of responsibility but appeared full of new possibilities and hopes. Spring brought not only nature's awakening but also a new stage in Tracy's life. The company Brown Renovations was thriving under her leadership. 3 new residential complexes were completed exactly on time, and clients left glowing reviews about the quality of construction and honest approach to business. All the employees gathered in the company's conference hall. An important meeting was preceded by a small ceremonial moment. "Dear colleagues," Tracy began, looking around at everyone gathered. "Today marks exactly 6 months since I took over the management of the company. I want to thank each of you for your support, patience, and trust. I couldn't have managed without you." "We should be thanking you," Richard replied, standing up. "You preserved the spirit of the company that your father created and brought new ideas that moved us forward." Applause broke out. Tracy smiled movedly, noticing Charles in the far corner of the hall, looking at her with undisguised pride. Over these 6 months, their relationship had grown into a strong bond based on mutual respect and love. "I have an important announcement," Tracy continued as the applause died down. Today we officially launched the Andrew Brown Charitable Foundation. The foundation will help orphans and families in difficult life situations with housing and education. This initiative was fully supported by the team. Many employees volunteered to participate in the foundation's work, offering their professional help and personal time. After the meeting, Tracy went into her office, her father's former office. On the desk stood his photo in a formal frame. She often talked to it, telling about work matters and asking for advice in difficult situations. "You would be proud, Dad," she said quietly, looking at the familiar face. "We're doing everything as you wanted." There was a soft knock on the door. "May I?" Charles peeked into the office. "How do you feel after the presentation?" "I was a little nervous, but now I feel better," Tracy smiled. "So much has happened over these 6 months. And there's still a lot ahead." Charles came up to her and took her hands. "By the way, I spoke with our lawyers about Miranda. She agreed to sell her shares." "Really?" Tracy couldn't believe it. "Why all of a sudden? Did she get a good offer from abroad?" Charles explained. "Some trendy company invited her to be their chief designer. I think she realized she wouldn't achieve anything here and decided to start fresh." Tracy felt a sudden relief. The confrontation with her stepmother had drained a lot of strength and energy. Now this chapter of her life could be closed. "I hold no grudge against her," Tracy admitted. "These months taught me a lot, and in some ways, I'm even grateful to her. If it weren't for her cruelty, I might never have known what I'm capable of or met you." Charles hugged her gently. "And I have a surprise for you," he said, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "I wanted to do this in a more romantic setting, but for some reason, now felt like the right moment." He knelt down on one knee and opened the box, revealing an elegant ring with a small but perfectly clear diamond sparkling inside. "Tracy Brown, will you marry me?" Her breath caught. Looking into those kind eyes, she didn't hesitate for a second. "Yes," she simply answered. "Of course, yes." Charles slipped the ring onto her finger and stood up to embrace Tracy. At that moment, a ray of sunlight broke through the clouds and illuminated Andrew's photograph on the desk. Tracy thought she saw her father smiling as if blessing them. A month later, she and Charles together laid the first stone in the foundation of a new project, a residential complex for young families under a special preferential program. Part of the apartments was designated for graduates of orphanages starting their independent lives. "You know," Tracy said, when they were going home after the ceremony, "I never thought I'd be involved in construction. But now I understand, building homes for people is not just business, it's a mission. We give people not just a roof over their heads, but a place where they will be happy." "Your father always understood that," Charles nodded. "And you are his worthy successor." At home, Tracy made another discovery. Sorting through an old box of her father's documents, she found a yellowed photograph where a young Andrew Brown stood next to an elderly man in front of a house under construction. On the back was written, "My first home with Grandpa. He taught me the most important thing. You must build in a way that you're not ashamed to look in the eyes of those who will live there." Tracy gently traced her fingers over the photo. Now she understood where her father's passion for construction came from. It was a family tradition passed down through generations. And now she herself had become part of it. "Thank you, Dad," she whispered, "for all your lessons, for believing in me even when I didn't believe in myself." Life went on, the company expanded, the orphanage foundation worked at full capacity. The wedding with Charles was set for the fall. Tracy often thought about how strangely fate unfolds. Sometimes the hardest trials lead to the brightest changes. And although she still missed her father, the pain of loss gradually turned into a bright memory and gratitude. His legacy lived in every house built, and every happy family who received the keys to a new apartment, and every child who gained hope thanks to the foundation in his name. And most importantly, it lived in Tracy's heart, who now knew for sure that no matter what happened, she would never be alone again. Her father's love, Charles's support, and her own inner strength would help her overcome any obstacles along the way.